Hello, everyone. Thanks for listening to Wake Up, Look Up, a podcast where we connect events happening in real time to the gospel of Jesus Christ. I'm Zach Wyrock. And in today's episode, we're talking about the Olympic opening, and we're asking the question, are we aware we're being evangelized? By the way, this is probably the most requested episode we've done so far. A lot of you reached out to ask us to cover this, which I appreciate. Your input and submitting ideas. If you don't know what we're talking about in this episode, it goes back to the opening night ceremonies of the Paris Olympic Games, which of course are happening this particular year. And as a part of that opening ceremony, there was a particular event that happened that is now subject to interpretation, but has caused a lot of angst. And that is that drag queens, men dressing up as women, seem to be depicting Da Vinci's painting of the Last Supper. In other words, there was a Last Supper of drag queens as part of the opening ceremony. Now, Christians kind of all over the world have responded negatively to what they believe was drag queens reenacting the Last Supper. Christians have been saying it is offensive, that it makes a mockery of the Christian faith, that it's rubbing the secular view of sexuality and gender in the faces of Orthodox Christians who believe the Bible when it teaches on those topics. Now, since the furor has happened, the Olympic organizing committee has said, no, we weren't trying to do the Last Supper. That was a Greek god, and that was a Greek mythological feast. Maybe not. I mean, there were other Olympic organizers who said, we drew inspiration from the Last Supper, but maybe we weren't trying to replicate it. So they're at least acknowledging that the Last Supper was at least somewhat connected to what the drag queens were representing. By the way, before I dive into this, let me say that it's not just Christians and it's not just Americans who were offended. The Egyptian Coptic Church, for example, issued a pretty strong statement condemning the action. Even Al-Azhar, which is a Sunni Muslim group in Egypt, said that it was offensive and horrific and atrocious and made light of Jesus Christ. It's not just Christians, it's not just Americans. A lot of people saw that and said, I know what you're doing, and what you're doing is awful. Now, since then, it's been backtracked, but I don't really think that's the point. To be honest with you, it doesn't surprise me that people who aren't Christians would make fun of or dishonor or desecrate what is a holy moment for Christians. I really don't expect non-Christians to assign any value to the Last Supper or any value to the biblical ideas of gender and sexuality. In other words, I'm not usually offended when non-Christians act like non-Christians. But what I do want to point out is this is yet another example of something I say all the time on this podcast, and that is that the secular worldview is a religion. I know they use the word secular, but they don't mean it the way it is traditionally understood. It is a religion because it is telling us how to think. It is telling us what is right, what is wrong, what is good, what is bad, and even calling us to obedience. Because the most basic question here is, what are drag queens doing in the opening of the Olympics, which is about sports, national pride, international community? Why would we be doing anything that alienates anyone? Isn't the whole point of the Olympics that different cultures with different worldviews and different value systems come together to compete in athletic events to remind us we're all human and we're all part of a global village? I guess unless you're religious. Because the secular crowd out there isn't just telling us what to think, what's right, what's good, what's best, what's better. They're also not going to stop until we agree, because they want us to sign on. They are being evangelistic. They won't stop until we believe what they believe. And even that, by the way, isn't offensive to me because I want people to believe what I believe. I just want to be honest about it. Christians have to realize that we must compete in the arena of ideas. We have to live our faith and talk about our faith because other people are. And when they're the only ones talking, they're the ones people will listen to, and we shouldn't be bashful about it. For the last 20 years, Christians haven't shared their faith because what we've been told is that talking about faith is offensive. Faith is individual. Faith is private. Faith should be left to the conscience of the individual. unless you're a drag queen and it's the opening of the Olympics. We have to begin to talk about Jesus with the way we live and with the things we say, because any other worldview ultimately leads to despair. It does not help people. It's not good for people. And because of that, we must share the gospel of grace, call people to repentance, encourage them to place their faith in Jesus and to be included in the kingdom that God is building. Listen, neutrality is a myth, and defensiveness doesn't accomplish anything. We have to begin to sit at the table and to voice our beliefs, because they're doing it. Whether it's the Olympics or anything else, they are coming into our homes with their message about sex, about gender, and about what is right. We have a message, and our message is true. Let's make sure we're matching their enthusiasm in our own representation of what we believe and what we know is good for our neighbors. Hey, thanks for watching this episode of Wake Up Look Up. While you're here, make sure you click like and subscribe so you get future content from Wake Up Look Up. And hey, leave a comment below letting us know what you thought or interacting in some way with what you just watched. I'd love a chance to talk with you more in the comment section. And also, while you're here, check out all the other content CCC puts out, including the videos that are around me right now.